Hello, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a video using the Pantone Color of the Year color, which they're calling Very Peri. It's a periwinkle, but it's leaning a little more purple, and I thought it would be really fun and also flattering for many skin tones to do a periwinkle eyeshadow look. So that's what today's video is about. I did use 4 different palettes to create this look. I definitely shopped my stash, but at the end of the video, I'm going to go through my entire stash and show you all the colors I have, which if you have those palettes could easily make a very nice periwinkle look. So if you're interested in seeing that, then stick around. And if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Rachel. I am a homeschooling stay-at-home mom who loves to play with colorful eyeshadow. I don't really know that much about other kinds of makeup. I just love the eyes. So if you also love that sort of thing, would like to see tutorials, collections, rankings, declutters, anything like that within the realm of eyeshadow, you're in the right spot. I hope you will consider liking and subscribing. I try to upload about 3 videos a week, and you can also find me on Instagram at Shimmers and Silver. So let's get going. I'm going to start today's video by using the Glamlite Icing Primer in the shade White Frosting. You may notice that I have some sparkles on my face, and that is because I already did this look today. And then I finished the whole video, stood up, and discovered that my phone had stopped recording after 11 seconds. Which was super annoying. I decided that because I really want this video done, like it wasn't just about the look. I wanted to do the look. I wanted to use these colors. I liked the final result, but I also really wanted to make a tutorial for it. And so I decided to get a shower and wash my hair and freshen up a bit and redo the video. So here we are. That's why I have sparkles on my face. But I'm not going to be annoyed because I actually decided to slightly change one of the colors that I ended up using. I'm going to be using 4 different palettes to create today's periwinkle look. They are the Blueberry Muffin from BH Cosmetics, the Norn's palette from Uden's Eye. I'll be using the Love Notes palette from Beauty Bay, and then I'm going to be using a single from ColourPop called Heiress. And then after the tutorial, I'm going to go through my whole collection and swatch for you different shadows that you might have in your collection that would be really good fits for any periwinkle look. Because at the end of the day, periwinkle is just light blue meets light purple. I mean, it's a match made in heaven, and the Pantone Color Very Peri that they've chosen for the year is actually a little bit more purple leaning. That is where the change comes in as far as the look I just washed off, and the look I'm going to do for you now, it's going to be a little bit more purple than my first look. Okay, I'm going to start with a medium-sized blending brush, and I'm going to dip into this ColourPop shade Heiress. This is just a single matte shadow, and I'm going to use it as a wash on my entire eye area. So I'll start it in the outer corner, but then I'll carry it through towards the bridge of the nose, and I'll blend it up towards the brow bone. And I will also put it, on my lid. It's just gonna be a wash of this pretty lavender color. It's funny, I actually bought this Heiress shadow because I had purchased the ColourPop So Very Lovely palette quite a while ago, and one of the colors that most stood out to me in that palette was a light, like lavender matte shade called Macaroon. And I really thought that that Macaroon shade was a lovely addition to the palette, something a little different and unexpected and interesting. And then when I actually used it, I was disappointed because I didn't feel that it performed super well. Now at this point in the game, I would say it was probably user error. It was probably just a matter of me not being very experienced with shadows and not using them super well or to the best of their ability. Or perhaps I had unrealistic expectations and was hoping for a much more pigmented shade than what I had actually purchased. But anyway, the reason I bought this Heiress single was because I was disappointed in that Macaroon, and I thought, well, fine, I'll get my matte purple elsewhere. And today is literally the first time that I have used it. So, there you go. Alright, I think this is a good starting point, and it's a little more purple leaning than earlier today, and I do prefer that. So now I'm going to dip into the Blueberry Muffin palette. I'm going to grab the shade Cheat Day. Every time I use this shade, I think, gee, that's a pretty nice periwinkle sort of blue. So I'm gonna dip lightly into this shadow and put it just in my outer corner area, like in the crease, just to deepen this outer area a little bit. I was thinking about color psychology and how interesting that is. Like the study and the science behind colors and the feelings that people experience when they look at colors. I think it's fascinating, and I am curious about the thinking that goes into Pantone's color of the year. Like, do they just randomly choose a color that they haven't seen trending in a few years? Or is there more science behind it? For example, coming off of all of the craziness regarding COVID and whatnot, maybe they thought, gee, we kind of need a color that is peaceful and calming for people because this color is going to now appear in cosmetics and home decor and furnishings and clothing and all sorts of stuff. So let's choose a color that is peaceful and relaxing. I remember my sister and I having a conversation about this years ago. We were talking about how the colors red and yellow, depending on the tones, can make people hungry or sort of stimulate an appetite, and that's why you see red and yellow so often in restaurant chain logos. Think Burger King, McDonald's. A whole bunch of different restaurant chains use those colors because those colors, as long as they're used in the right ratio, can be stimulating to the appetite, make you think about food. However, if you have too much red, it can make people anxious or angry. And if you have too much yellow, it can have the connotations of cowardice. And it's very interesting to me, especially and particularly as color relates to marketing. I'm going to take a denser blending brush, and I'm going to first very lightly dip into the shade So Good in the Blueberry Muffin palette, but I'm just touching it really lightly. Then I'm taking that same brush with that very little bit of shadow on it, and I'm going to dip into the shade Lavender in the Beauty Bay Love Notes palette. And I'm going to go in a little bit heavier. So I have like a blue base with then the purple lavendery color on top of it. And this lavender in the Love Notes palette is actually more of a periwinkle tone, like it's got slight blue undertones. And I'm going to place that also in my outer corner. I'm just adding dimension and interest, really. It's just these different layers of color which make it look more interesting. Anyway, as far as marketing goes, like color story and psychology in marketing, I have a small business of my own, and what really gets my goat is when I see somebody else doing the same sort of thing as I am, not as well, but getting better success with it. Like, at face value, I might be able to provide a better service, but if their photographs are better, or their social media engagement is better, or, you know, reels are the new thing. Everyone's doing reels, so if your business is just pictures and everyone else is doing reels, reels are gonna get more engagement, and presumably, as long as the product is decent, reels are gonna grow your customer base. So if you're a business and you're not doing reels on Instagram, I'm not saying it's gonna kill you, but you won't get the kind of engagement that you might otherwise have gotten, particularly if you're a smaller company. And so I see somebody who might be doing the very same thing as I'm doing, except I'm doing it better, but they're getting more attention or more customers or more business. And at the end of the day, it's all down to marketing. I mean, yes, there's something to be said for personality, and there are a lot of different factors, but marketing's a pretty big one. Therefore, as a businesswoman, I want to learn about marketing so that I can do it better. But as just an individual, I just think it's super interesting how color psychology plays into our marketing and our everyday lives as well. You know, the colors that you fill your home with are hopefully colors that you find to be relaxing and peaceful and calming, or maybe your office is painted like a peachy color because you find that stimulating and energizing. Maybe your laundry room is painted yellow because it makes you think of sunshine and drying clothes, and it makes you upbeat and wanna, you know, energetic and wanna get the work done. Maybe your kitchen is painted a sage green because it makes you think of herbs and spices. I've found that in my own home, I tend to grab like cool toned blues and greens in my decor, and it doesn't in any way match the like smoking lounge couch set that my husband wanted to buy. But that's okay. And we find a middle ground, but my bedspread is a cool toned blue-green seafoamy sort of color, and I find that relaxing and calming. So much of me right now wants to grab a much darker shade to deepen out this outer corner, but I'm trying to keep it periwinkle, and so I'm gonna let it go as it is and add the shimmer. For shimmer, I'm going to take a flat shader brush or a flat C brush, and I'm going to dip into the Norn's palette from Udensai. I'm going to use the shade Self. This is a multi-chrome. Everything on the bottom row here, they're multi-chromes. And honestly, there are two shadows here, two shimmers that look like purpley periwinkle kind of colors, but then one of them shifts very blue, and the other one shifts more purple with hints of green, and that's the one that I'm going to use, the purpley greeny one. It's still blue, it's still purple. It's got some other colors thrown in there for good measure. I'm dipping into the pan with this brush, and then I'm going to spray the brush because it helps me control fallout and also makes the shimmer slightly more metallic. So I've got that on my brush, and I'm going to lay it on the inner part of my lid and carry it all the way out to meet those mattes. This is a really beautiful shade. This is a really beautiful palette. This Norn's palette is so pretty. It's unique. I don't have anything quite like it in my collection. It's just such a pretty palette. Today I want the shimmer to be distributed a little bit more. So here, I'm going to zoom in so you can see. Here I'm doing the skinny part of the brush as though I were carving the crease. And now I'm going to flip the brush so that the flat part is laid against my skin and drag it up. That's what I mean. I hope you were able to see that. I won't know until I get to the editing part of the video, but that's what I'm doing because I want that color to drag up higher so that when you look straight at me, you can see the shimmer up higher. The reason I started doing that is because I noticed that I was getting more color in this outer part where I tend to concentrate the shadows, and then there was like a little drop off, and then the shimmer color on the lid, and I realized that I wasn't carrying that lid color all the way up to actually meet the outer shadows that I was placing down. So I had a bit of a disconnect, and I don't want that. So I'm now making sure that I connect from here all the way up, because the shimmer, like the outer mattes usually end around here, but I blend them all the way up to the brow bone. So I just had this slightly funny shaped naked patch, and I didn't want that. So I started doing like using the flat of the brush to change my application technique a bit. I am going to take my denser blending brush and go back into the Cheat Day shade in Blueberry Muffin. I'm going to dip in a little bit more heavily and just place this in this outer corner and buff it into the shimmer that I just laid down, because I want a little bit more definition out there. Then I'm taking my original blending brush and buffing these colors together a little bit more, just to soften those lines where I've placed the shades down. Okay, so for the lower lash line, I'm going to start by taking a small blending brush. I'm going to dip back into that ColourPop single called Heiress, and I'm going to run this on the whole length of my lower lash line, making sure that I meet up with the color in the outer corner here. Now with a smudger brush, I'm going to dip back into the shade So Good, again from the Blueberry Muffin palette. I'm going to put this just on the outer lower lash line to meet the So Good shade that I put in the outer corner, and just deepen up that lower lash line a little bit more. I like the smudger brush for this area because it gives me, like, I use a blending brush for more of a transitional color, and then I use a smudger brush because it's more dense and more precise. We're almost done here. I'm taking a small pencil brush, I'm going back into the Norn's palette, and I'm going to dip back into that shade called Self. And then I will spray the shimmer, like spray the brush, and I'm going to place this on my inner corner and wrap it down on the lower lash line about halfway to meet the darker colors. So it's really just a continuation of the shade Self from the lid. This is not going to be my inner corner color. I do want something a little bit brighter there, because on my skin tones, blue toned purples and purple toned blues, especially the darker you get, can be kind of dangerous. They can make me look quite tired. So I definitely want to brighten up the lower lash line, and I will do that next. I'm going to take that same small pencil brush and dip into the shade Sugared in Blueberry Muffin. Honestly, this shadow and the Shadow Louvre in the BH Cosmetics Passion in Paris palette are like my two favorite white shimmer inner corner highlights. They are beautiful. They're so pretty. I'm gonna put this right here to highlight my inner corner, and you'll see when you compare the two next to each other how much an inner corner highlight can really make an eyeshadow look pop and just brighten it up. Because if you look on this side where there's this beautiful bright crisp white in the middle, in the center, and then compare it to this side where there's not, there's a huge difference. And this side looks a little bit more sleepy, a little bit more pulled down, whereas this side looks lifted up and brightened. And that is the incredible difference that an inner corner highlight color can make. And it doesn't have to be shimmer. A matte works just as well, and it adds a whole different feel to the look. It's fun. I mean, I've done inner corner highlights with like bright greens, oranges. It doesn't have to be white. I do recommend that it be a light tone or a neon, like something that's bright, something that really livens up the eyes, whereas a dark color will bring them down and make them look more heavy. Depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a smoky eye, then you might not want a bright inner corner highlight. I don't know. There are so many beautiful things you can do with eyeshadow. I was watching Angelica Nyqvist once, and she had like a silverish black smoky eye going on, and it was pretty. It's Angelica. She always does pretty eyeshadow looks, but it was pretty standard as well. Except on the lower lash line up until about here, like from here to here, she had black because it was more of a smoky eye. But then between here and her inner corner, she had orange and red. And it was so striking because it was unexpected and like a little surprise every time she, opened her eyes. It's like, oh, look at that. It was very interesting. I really liked it. But do you see what a difference this makes to have a little pop of brightness there? Because all of a sudden this look, which is dangerous territory for my skin tone, is feeling more lively and brightened. And with whatever is left on the brush, I'm just gonna run it under my brow bone. I don't actually do this too much anymore. I used to do a brow highlight like all the time. Don't really do it so much anymore. And now to finish up, because I do specifically want to keep this lower lash line quite bright and light, I'm just taking a white eyeliner and I'm gonna line my lower waterline. All right, for the second time this morning, it's like 7 a.m., not even. For the second time this morning, I am done this eyeshadow look. I'm going to go off camera, throw on some black eyeliner and mascara, and just finish everything up, and then I'll be back to show you the end result. All right, guys, and here's the finished look. I think it's really, really pretty. I love that they chose periwinkle for the color of the year, because not only, going back into psychology, I feel that it's a very calming and relaxing sort of color, but I also think that it's probably a flattering color on most people's skin. You might want to go more purple if you have darker skin, or a light blue if you have lighter skin. You might want to grab different undertones depending on what your skin's undertones are, but overall, blues and purples can be done really nicely together. They can be done really nicely on lots of different skin tones, and I think it was a good choice. I've enjoyed making this eyeshadow look. I've enjoyed shopping my stash and sort of forcing myself to be creative outside of just one palette. So now I just want to quickly go through the colors that I used and swatch them on my arm for you, and then also grab all the other periwinkle colors I could find in my collection. So if you wanted to do a periwinkle look but you didn't have the palettes that I used, maybe you do have the palettes that I'm going to reference. So let's get started with that. First, I'll show you the Heiress, which is the single from ColourPop. It's right here. It's a really pretty color. I just grabbed whatever shadows I could find that were a blue-purple kind of color. So some of these are gonna lean more purple and some are gonna lean more blue. But this is Heiress from ColourPop. You see it's a really pretty color. I used this one today. Next, I'm going to dip it back into the Blueberry Muffin palette. I'm gonna grab Cheat Day. And I'm not gonna bother taking So Good, which we did use a couple times in today's look, but I only used it to just deepen out with a more blue tone. It's not really a periwinkle-y color. So this is Cheat Day from Blueberry Muffin. You can see that one's a lot more like the color of my shirt, which is a blue with a purple undertone. It's nice. The next matte that I used today was from the Love Notes palette, and it is the shade Lavender. And that's right here. This is Lavender from the Beauty Bay Love Notes palette. much more light toned matte, but it has blue undertones. Now I'm dipping into the Norn's palette and I'm gonna swatch the color Self. Don't need to swatch that one very much because look at how it performs. This is a beautiful purple shimmer, but it has blue flecks in it. It's just so pretty. And this one, if you put it on more of a purple base, it's gonna look more purple. If you put it on more of a blue base, it's gonna look more blue. I love Uden's eye shimmers. They are beautiful. Now earlier in the video, I did reference the macaroon shade from ColourPop's So Very Lovely palette. Now if you watched my customizing my mega palette video, you would have seen this, where I took the Play a Jewel palette from ColourPop and I customized it with my favorite shades from So Very Lovely. And this up here is that original macaroon shade. So that's gonna be right here. So this is, again, a nice purple matte, but it definitely has more of a pink undertone, where like this purple matte, this is the Heiress from ColourPop, this has a blue purple undertone. The macaroon shade has a much more pink undertone. Now in today's first look, I actually had used the color Sympathetic from BH Cosmetics Sapphire palette. And the reason I decided not to use this in the second version of the eyeshadow look was because it was a little bit too blue. It was making me look quite tired, which is something that I have to remember when I'm working with blue eyeshadows. Like for me and my skin tones, it's safer to go the bright route because the darker blues can make me look very weary. But this is Sympathetic from BH Cosmetics Sapphire palette. And it, again, is periwinkle-ish. It's a lot more blue, obviously, but it's got kind of purple undertones, again, much like my shirt. This one's an even closer match to my shirt. These two colors are quite similar. I used this one today. I did not use this one in the second look. In the published look, I did not use this. And if you see, this one is a darker version of that. This has a slightly more pastel bent to it, and so that's why I opted for this one instead of that one. Now let's dip into the Lilac palette from ColourPop. Lilac was a palette that I almost grabbed for today's look. I opted not to because I didn't think that these tones were blue enough to truly be periwinkle, but I think that the shimmer Fluff right here and possibly the shimmer Trainwreck, you could use them in a periwinkle look, especially if you were laying them on top of blue shadows, because they're not very blue in and of themselves. In fact, they're quite lavender lilac colors. But if you put them on top of blue, it could bring a really pretty element into your look, and blue and purple together make periwinkle, so it would still work. This is... I've forgotten. Okay, I'm a mess. I need to get this video done before my daughter wakes up. This is Fluff right here from the ColourPop Lilac You A Lot. It's a beautiful, beautiful purple shimmer. Again, it's a lot more pink based, kind of like this matte right here. It's got more pink undertones. And then this is the shade Trainwreck, also from ColourPop's Lilac You A Lot. Trainwreck's really, it's a much lighter lilac lavender sort of shimmer. It's pretty. Now, I just want to point out, do you see the difference between the Uden's Eye shimmer and the ColourPop shimmers? Now, I like ColourPop, and I like ColourPop shimmers, I always have, and I have always thought that they applied best with the finger. But let's just, I mean, the swatches speak for themselves as far as the difference in quality and performance. And I've only been doing eyeshadow for a year, so the palettes that I have are not even a year old. I can't blame age. It's just formula. This is Uden's Eye, and these are ColourPop. They're pretty, and on the fingers they look nice as well. They are very pretty shimmers, but they just, like Uden's Eye shimmers perform on a whole nother level. Two more palettes that I want to dive into for this video, and then we will finish up. The Blue Moon palette from ColourPop as well is my favorite blue palette. It's a great blue palette. I'm gonna dip into the shade Dabadi up here, which is more of a periwinkle, cornflowery sort of shade. Now this, again, very close to my blue shirt color. This is quite a true blue, but because it's a lighter matte, I thought it would work nicely if you paired it with more purple tones to get a periwinkle finished result. And finally, we're gonna end with a sparkle with the Udanzai Elva 2 Mini Ocean palette. I've not done any videos with this palette yet, and I want to grab the shade Jellyfish right here. I almost used this one in today's look as well. I opted not to because it didn't really have enough blue in it to feel periwinkle to me, but it would work nicely. We'll put it here with the ColourPop shimmers. It would work nicely as a topper shade. Hope you can see that. It's a very sheer, almost no color, although it has like a purpley kind of undertone. It's like a purpley champagne-y kind of thing. Anyway, it's pretty. It looks, honestly, it looks a little bit more purple in the pan than it does on the skin. But if you had any of these palettes, or a couple of them, you could make quite a nice periwinkle sort of look. So that is my video for the Pantone 2022 Color of the Year, Very Peri. I think the eyeshadow look is beautiful. I had a lot of fun creating it, and I thank you so much for clicking on my video and giving me a little portion of your day. I hope you enjoyed the look. Please comment below with what you think of the color of the year, what you think of the eyeshadow look, any feedback on how I might improve my videos, and until we see each other again, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!